Kia ora, my name is Chris Teese, and I'm delighted to be here today to read a few poems for you as part of Yuan's celebration of the Dragon Boat Festival. I'm really excited to be part of a program celebrating classical and contemporary Chinese poetry. I'm going to read a few poems for you from AUP New Poets 4, which is a shared collection that I was included in back in 2011. And my section of the book contains poems about my great-grandfather's arrival in New Zealand at the turn of the 20th century, as well as my great-grandmother who stayed in the village back in China. And so the first poem I'm going to read is called Crossfade. He cradles his son and wife, makes promises out of paper, promises that will wait in darkened rooms. In time, they will be torn and cursed in despair. Rooms will grow darker, and like water, secrets will find their way into everything, muddy the heart and drown all hope. She begged him to stay, asked neighbours to help change his mind. She did not want to be one of those wives, left to wait in a maddening shroud, with false glimmers of return or reunification, a doll married to dust on the highest shelf. She knew she might never follow. Held in his exhibition of final moments, her smile like pinched steel, eyes armed with trust. This is for the best, speaker unknown. The seas hold him tight, and he puts the luck of his loved ones back into the hidden, where unforgettable voices outstay their welcome, like a child with just one song. Water and new light pass in circles, terrors in the night seize his tongue. Her last expression weathers his resolve. He will ask for forgiveness 1,000 times over, but the silence that follows is the crow he can't shake off. Held in her exhibition of the passing months, an edgeless community cradling gossip in teacups, letters arrive with no invitation for response. So my great-grandmother actually did make it out to New Zealand eventually, many years later, but by then my great-grandfather had remarried and started a new family. And so my mum and her siblings were told that she was an auntie, but of course they eventually figured out who she was. So I'm going to read a couple of poems about my great-grandmother's arrival in New Zealand. Plans. The first wife takes a look around the house. The garden needs a fruit tree for sweetness. A letter arrives from her son with arrangements for her trip to New Zealand. Finally, she will meet her granddaughters. There could be no greater gift. But there is one condition. She cannot be the wife of a married man. When she arrives, she must be a different woman, an auntie. She takes one last look around the house and imagines the fruit trees in her husband's garden. True stories. No grand welcome, no arms thrown around this old woman's neck. Heads face forward, and we are told to behave. She is an auntie, and that's that. But eventually, we will piece her together. We will discover how her blood flows into ours. We will whisper grandmother to ourselves and nod in agreement at our cleverness. Of course, the questions are endless, like the snakes that infest her bedtime stories, entrenched in our sheets. Itchy slither, too fast to hold this loaded truth. After university, I was really fortunate to be able to go to China and to Hong Kong and to visit my great-grandfather's house, where I saw photos of myself and my brother and cousins as kids up in this house, and it made that connection with the house so much more real, and it was a very moving experience that changed the way I felt about my connection to my own history. So I'm going to finish off with a couple of poems about that trip and those experiences. The Family Village. We are no longer strangers to the paths of the family name or its uncanny signposts. The Joe chin, the Joe appetite. In the belly of the family house, we offer incense at the top of a ladder. A series of photographs from New Zealand stops at 1985. Pale to think of the darkened space our gung slept in, an empty bed now left to wait for gold to fill its frame. Something holds us to this pivot point from which the world extends to a breadcrumb trail. Tonight, the air will ring with peace as the weight of expectation is finally lifted. After sharing this past, our giddy hearts will keep us on right paths. And this last poem is called Deracinate. In this terracotta haze, my skin reads like foxed pages. Yesterday's news forged by the trial and error of endangered life. This country built on a heart of borders between old and new, every life a soldier caught up in uneasy grace. Just another chink in my armor. Just another son missing in a long line of dislocations from the motherland, from a mother tongue that licks at the hollow of my mouth, down to each last beat of my difficult language. This talk of the other that trails my every move back home speaks not of defiance, but of a blood clot guilt. Here, like evidence on trial, it pushes me across every defined border, only to end up on my own side still, where the verdict is my scarlet letter. Of course, it mattered back then too, possibly even more so, not knowing which crayons to use at school for family portraits. And if it wasn't my name or my lunchbox contents, it was the Chinese tongue I so easily surrendered to the playground government, or my colours running in the wash. These days, it seems I'm losing myself again more than ever, reborn in China like every other disconnected branch, split straight down the middle and walked out into proof. They can see who I really am, all soil and tears, the product of fearless journey and the settler dream, when all I want is to be brave, in safety with my inherited demons. I am but a tourist, a counterfeit in their nights of private games, scattered on the wind, a million leaves to the score. I bring nothing but a selfish search and a claim to belong. Behind the safety of hotel windows, protected from the vice-like grip of beggar kids, where curtains divided reveal this country for what it is. Grey, inconsistent, and for reasons unknown, utterly addictive. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to Yuan for inviting me to read for you today and for making me part of their Dragon Boat Festival program. Take care, and hopefully I'll get to read to you in person in the future. Cheers.